The year must have been 2009. I walked into the living room to see my dad playing the Xbox 360. When I walked in, he was mowing down a horde of what looked like zombies. Moments after I walked in, his friend was pulled by what looked like a tongue. As he's being dragged away, he turned to go assist, but at that moment, I heard this shriek of a zombie pouncing on him, tearing him to bits. At that moment as well, his whole screen lit up green. He shortly after did not make it. But I asked my dad, what game is this? And he said that he went to GameStop and the guy told him this game was really good. This game was Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead's been massively played over the years. It's had its ebb and flow of player base, but the one thing that nobody can deny is the fact that people will always come back to play it. Whether you're just feeling in the mood for October and you want to get in the spooky spirit, or you just want to have a fun time playing. This has been one of those games that you could just hop on by yourself or with some friends, whether it be versus or campaign, and you could just have a fun time. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what made the game special. And maybe not just what made the game special, but just some key points, so to speak. Whether we're talking about the infected or we're talking about the survivors. We're going to delve into the parts that I think are the most gripping, with this being said. Now, I will try to look at this through a middle ground because I love this game. It's been a game that, again, I played all the way back in the day when it kind of first came out and still play to this day, and I'm 28 years of age now. So to really, highlight the example of the stay power this game has. The clips in this video were actually taken on my Xbox. My friend decided to help me out with some footage here. But honestly, even the 2 maps that we played through, and thank you for corrupting some of my footage, on Left 4 Dead 1, or at least some of the maps from Left 4 Dead 1, we had a fun time, and it was just 2 maps, and we were just kind of gabbing through it, having fun. We didn't play it on a hard difficulty like we normally do, but honestly, it's just always a fun game. But first, before we get into things, I wanted to talk about the Steam chart. So the Steam chart here is going to kind of tell you, about what we look at as far as how the game is progressing nowadays. Now, I'm going to ignore the peaks and the, percentage gains and stuff of the, last couple months, but we're going to look at it for the last 24 hours. So obviously we have an all-time peak of 161,590 players. The 24-hour peak, though, is 21,696 people. Currently, and this is just 24 minutes ago as of taking this screenshot, we're looking at 15,876 players. Now that's a good bit of players, right? Especially for a game that came out in 2009, all things considered. This is also, helpful with the modding community who really help out with this game. But let's not go down that route. A game that came out, I don't actually have the year in front of me currently. I believe it must have been, must have been 2022, 2021 or something along those lines, is Back 4 Blood. Now, Back 4 Blood, as we can see here, has an all-time peak of 65,873 players, which is, I'm not going to say a fraction, but it's definitely not hitting it on the nose, so to speak. The 24-hour peak is 3,391, with a total player limit of 1,711 people. This is just nothing close to Left 4 Dead, a game that came out years later. And some of the people who actually worked on Left 4 Dead worked on Back 4 Blood too. So what does this mean? It means that truly Valve made an amazing game that has the stay power, as I said, for years and years and years to come. So, let's talk about a couple of the key components of why I think the game ends up doing very, very well in its lifespan. I have a quick chart here on my own end that'll kind of tell me some of the things that I jotted down as I was playing again for a couple times, and definitely come back to this game once every couple months. So for starters, we're going to talk about the graphics. The graphics for its time were fantastic. How some of the infected just look, they're just gruesome looking, they're just nasty looking. Even the normal common infected look nasty, which is the aim of the game when we're looking at a zombie game. The grotesque nature of these things, that's really what we look for, right? But the graphics of even just the maps, as we could see, they're just super unique. Whether it comes down to the blood splatter effects or the dismemberment of body parts, it's an amazing looking game for especially its time. It even holds up fairly well to nowadays, and this is one of the key things that my friend and I kind of, with the notation that I'm making a video of it, kind of thought about, wow, it really did look great for its time. And there's furthermore that I could delve into, but I'm just not thinking of it off the top of my head currently. However, the graphics are just amazing. And again, hard to consider that they're from 2009 when we see some of the games coming out nowadays looking graphically amazing. But just think back to 2008, 2009. So now we're going to get on to what is called the director. So the director is an AI assistant for the game to make your experience not like the last time and not like the time after. The director will see how you and your team are doing, and depending on if you're doing well, will make it more difficult, or if you're doing poorly, they'll make it easier for you. Depending on whether that's throwing a tank in the mix or taking a tank out in a certain area, it's there to make sure that you aren't just having a walk in the park even if it is set on easy mode. The difficulties are there essentially to kind of increase damage, inputs, not output for you, of course, but just to kind of make it a little more difficult or easier if you're having some tough times. The AI of this, the director, especially again considering 2008, 2009, more specifically 2009 because that's when Left 4 Dead 2 came out, it's just crazy to think that we had this technology working this well back then. But the director really doesn't get enough love for what it really does, and it's truly special for how it just takes care of you through the game, right? Next up, we're going to be talking about the map fluidity and its uniqueness. Now, what I mean by this is that not every map feels the same, which is crazy to think. I mean, whether you're doing Blood Harvest all the way to No Mercy, it's just fun to play through each map because they're each different, right? The environment seems different. Just the pathing of it seems different. The choke points that you'll have to spawn in hordes of zombies to wait for something, it's all different. And it's very fun and unique so that, when you do play, you kind of feel like you are missing out if you aren't playing a specific map, right? So if you play through 3 out of 4, you're like, oh man, but I want to play that last one just to see how it plays, see how it is. It's very unique in that nature. And just again, the playthrough of it, right? The replayability, at this point, I've played this game so much. I know a lot of the small things that you'll end up finding. Again, as somebody who tries to play this game on as hardest difficulty, sometimes you'll find most of the ins and outs, but I'm still kind of discovering things to this day. And I just think that that's incredibly unique. Again, the fluidity and the uniqueness of these just make it crazy to think that, again, this came out so long ago and it really held up so true to this day. I do love the maps. Most of them I love. I think the hardest one is Hard Rain, if that's the name of it. It's just the the rain aspect, right? So moving forward, we're going to talk about the special infected. And I'm going to go down a list here that I kind of made talking about from the first one to the second one, and then we'll talk about the two big ones, which of course the Witch and the Tank. So for starters, the Hunter. The Hunter soundbite is just so horrifying. I think a lot of people have this kind of this drawn conclusion that when you hear a hunter growling, you're going to get a little scared. He's going to jump scare you at some point. He's going to pounce at you. It's so captivating to hear the soundbite, and it's something that you hear the growling, you're like, I don't want to turn the corner anytime soon, right? So I do love the Hunter. How he looks is it's a little odd because I didn't realize he was duct taped. If you see some of his appendages, he has some duct tape on it. He's very interesting looking, but all in all, one of my favorite infected to play as, especially when you jump from a rooftop all the way down onto a survivor and just start ripping them to pieces. And I always thought the visual of that was super unique. I always thought in real life, man, you'd be dead in 2 seconds, Next up is the Boomer. The big bile man himself, or bile woman as they came in Left 4 Dead 2. The Boomer was always such an annoying infected, and probably one of the best zombies that you could get for a special infected, because he or she could solely destroy your whole crew if you were in a bad pinch, and he ended up just, vomiting all over you and your whole team, and got all 4 of you guys. Now you can't see, and now you guys are backed up into a corner, and the horde is just piling onto you. Furthermore, allowing for the other special infected to really get in there and start messing with you guys too. The Boomer looks like a Boomer should, and it's great. Just the disgusting nature of what it is, and you can just see some of its nasty wounds, so to speak. The Boomer is one of my, also, I can't say this about everyone. They're all going to be my favorite, but realistically, the Boomer is honestly one of my favorite because you can kind of just drop down from a building on top, right in the middle of all four of them, just hit your vomit button and spin in a circle, and you'll probably get all of them. Next up's the Smoker. Now, obviously, the Smoker, you can hear him from a mile away. You can hear him coughing and gagging. The Smoker is not one of my favorites, honestly, because I just feel like half the time when I'm playing in versus, I grab somebody and it's maybe in the not most useful spot, and I get, it gets freed or I get killed. But the Smoker, genuinely back in the day, was something that I did fear because I'd try to get ahead, or maybe I'd fall a little behind or something in an online campaign lobby, and I would just hear the cough, and you're like, oh no, there's nothing I could do. And you look down, you're holding a shotgun maybe, and you're like, oh no, there's furthermore nothing I could do if he comes up on me, right? The Smoker, I did like how they went from Left 4 Dead 1 for the Smoker just kind of looking like what this did, and then Left 4 Dead 2, I'll try to get an image up here, ended up modifying the way it looks, like a lot of Special Infected did, but I think it really showed the more furthermore mutation, and I thought that was cool to show that the game was progressing. The game span was progressing so that you could see the mutations changing. I thought that was really unique and really cool. Now we're going to move on to the Left 4 Dead 2 Special Infected, and we're going to start off with the Charger. Something I think a lot of people have annoyingly come to fear. The Charger, obviously, self-explanatory, will charge into you and your team, knocking you all around like a bowling ball to, a bunch of pins. The Charger's super annoying if you're, chilling by a cliffside or something like that, because he'll just take you for a ride. And it kind of sucks because there's no recourse for it. But just like any Special Infected, there's not a whole lot that you could do by yourself. That's the aim of the game when it comes to this. I do think that the Charger is super busted at times if you know what you're doing with them, and I think that's good. I think it's cool that you get rewarded for knowing how to position yourself and how to play, which is, I think, kind of the ideal key of playing against some of these Special Infected, right? Or playing as some of these Special Infected, I should say. The Charger, love him, fear him. He's always going to be around in every game. The Spitter. The Spitter is going to be an interesting one, because I ended up hating the Spitter when I first started playing Left 4 Dead 2, and that was because I thought she was just useless. I didn't think she had much power in her. However, when you use the idea that you're working as a team, and if your team can shut down something, they lock down all the survivors, well, the Spitter just comes perfectly in place. Spitting on top of the group, leaving them to scramble, figure things out. If not, they're going to die sitting there. And I thought the Spitter at that point, I was like, well, this is actually one of the best key team players that you can find as far as the Special Infected goes. The Spitter is honestly amazing, especially for locking off key points, because you don't really want to run through that spit, especially in the higher difficulties. That stuff really hurts, The Jockey. Oh, this one's so annoying. The Jockey's not necessarily a light-duty Special Infected, so he does take a little bit to kill, which is, it kind of sucks because he grabs onto you, and it's not like a Hunter where you could pop him, or, a Smoker where you could pop him really quick. I feel like the Jockey takes a little bit more damage. Like, he has some durability in him. So if he grabs onto your teammate, you're already a little bit of distance away. It's going to be a nightmare getting your teammate back, you know what I mean? So, the Jockey's not one of my favorites to play personally, but I do think that he has a perfect nature in the game. And I think he definitely has some power to him if it came down to it, right? Taking a survivor, pulling him away. Realistically, you pull him off a cliff. It's not like a Charger where he charges in, takes you off a cliff, and takes you with him, right? But your team could probably come get you. Not necessarily the best thing to do at that point, right? So maybe take him, bring him away, take him down a corner of an alley, and just keep pulling away. All in all, Jockey's not bad. It's probably my least favorite of all of them. So on to the big two head honchos. So number one is going to be the Witch. So the Witch will end up just kind of sitting in a room, although now she roams around in Left 4 Dead 2. So back in Left 4 Dead 1, she used to just sit there. You'd hear her cry and sulk. And this was the idea of, the survivors would say there was a witch around. And it was interesting to hear, You'd hear this crying, especially early in the day, when I was a kid. You'd hear the crying, you're like, oh no, I want to go help this person. And you turn a corner, you're like, oh, she doesn't need help. So the Witch is a very unique character because if you do startle the Witch, you're in for a bad time. The Witch will basically turn a corner and just it'll just smack you once. It'll give you a couple seconds to think about your life choices, and then we'll continue to beat the absolute hell out of you and probably just kill you within a matter of seconds. I think on the higher difficulty, she ends up just like, one-shotting you basically. So not a whole lot of recourse around that. I found the best idea to deal with witches is to chuck a Molotov at them and just run away. Kind of like the same thing with the next guy on my list, which is going to be the big boy, the tank. So the tanks are obviously the big showstoppers when it comes to Left 4 Dead Special Infected. Tanks are super strong, super tanky, as the name insists, and will batter you like no other. So imagine that the tank is probably about the same speed as you as long as you're in the green health bar, but honestly, the tank just hits you and just throws you. The tank is also one of the actually the only special infected to be able to move objects such as cars, things of that nature, which can actually be used to damage you. So if you're a good tank, you could essentially get behind a car, punch it at the survivors. There's not a whole lot that they can really do, maybe to try to shoot you and take some pop shots at you, but get hurling cars if a car hits you, that's it. That's game over. I mean, obviously you don't immediately die, so your team could kill the tank and come back and get you, but I mean, if you're all clumped together and a tank shoves one car at you, you're all down. That's it. And there's been so many times that this has happened in a versus lobby, but I will tell you that the tank is just incredible with this being said, as far as like, when you get to play the tank, it just feels empowering. Lastly, we're going to talk about the survivors. The survivors, for the most part, all have interesting characteristics, which is something I talked about. I was at work talking to a colleague of mine about this, and I just love the unique nature of the survivors. I mean, they all kind of have their own little personality, whether it's Ellis talking about his stories with Keith, or whether it's, Lewis yelling about pills all the time, or, Francis, I think it's Francis and Bill always going back at it and whatnot, or Coach talking about chocolate. You really kind of get a hold of these characters and just kind of feel who they are as people. You feel like you've known somebody like Ellis. You feel like you've known somebody like Coach, maybe. Some of them are kind of forgettable. I believe Rochelle had some of her voice lines taken out and maybe added later, something like that. Nick, I don't really care for as far as his sound acting goes. I don't think there's a whole lot in there. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I come back and play this game very often, but I don't play it all the time, with this being said. So I do know that a lot of them, you can kind of say, hey, you know what? I got a buddy like Ellis who just goes on and on and on about these crazy, crazy stories, right? So I do think it comes down to just the actors who did this, the voice acting, did a good job. But furthermore, I think Left 4 Dead did a great job at making these characters feel like they're remembered for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why they made it and why they're here to talk to us.
I ever tell you about the time my buddy Keith made sushi? Yeah, his mom took him to a sushi place for his birthday, and he didn't want to go, but he turned out he loved it, man. But it's like $10 a sushi at one of them places. So Keith figures, hey, how hard could it be to roll up some raw food and seaweed, right? As it turns out, it's hard. Now, they say experience is the best teacher, and experience taught Keith that if you ever eat 3 pounds of raw chicken, it kills you. Now, luckily, Keith's brain went into self-defense mode and started shutting organs down to head the chicken off of the pass, and the doctors were able to get him out before his heart stopped. But to this day, Keith has no sensation in his right foot and doesn't recognize his brother Paul no more.
Pills here! Pills here! Pills here!
So honestly, guys, all in all, my opinion on Left 4 Dead is that I think it's just going to be a staple in most people's libraries. As far as when it comes down to a great horde zombie game, I just don't see a lot of people touching it. We definitely see, Back 4 Blood making a stab at it. It's, obviously made from the people who worked on Left 4 Dead originally as well. And I just don't really foresee it, being dethroned. And when I say this, it's all an opinionated sense. Truthfully, I mean, the game is very dated. There's glitches inside the game. There's no perfect game that you run into it. I think, I don't know if the clip's still in there. There was a clip where a charger charges us as we're going up a ladder, and I fell straight down and directly died. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Or at least I was downed. So, all in all, it's not a perfect game. It's very far from. And the fact that it was made back in 2009, and there's probably been some updates here and there for it, it's a good game. It's a really good game. I have fun with it. I love the game. And it's in one of those my top lists, just because it's a game it's been in my top list for so long, and I think a lot of us were really waiting with bated breath, hoping that Back 4 Blood was going to be Left 4 Dead 3, but I just don't think, again, I don't think it pushed the needle, so to speak, unfortunately. So, all in all, guys, this is an opinionated topic. I just kind of went over the reasons why I enjoy it, and more or less I went over like what the special effects do and stuff. And I mean, realistically, these are all things that you guys already know if you played, or these are things that you probably figured out pretty quickly if you played, I should say. But again, it's a fun game. I don't really foresee any, like, there's no esport around it. There's no try hard around it, which is why I do believe the fact that it's not an efficiency max game, which is why I don't think it's this is why I think it's going to continue to stand the test of time, because it's not something that you'll really bleed out on, so to speak, pun not intended, because it's Left 4 Dead. But I definitely think it's something that you can get on, casually have fun, and that's really what I think makes the game so entertaining, because it's from a time in which it wasn't made to be a super try hard game. It was a game that really was trying hard to make you have fun. And, you know, where the director mixes it up every time for you, I just think that it was a good relationship between fun and difficult, and it kind of homogenized together to make this wonderful game that we could still enjoy to this day. All in all, guys, I spent not a whole lot of time making this video. I did actually, in the grand scheme of things, getting the footage, doing some editing, realizing I'm still learning editing and whatnot, and getting there. I think I'm learning every single day some different things and some new things. But guys, if you really liked the video, you know, obviously hit a like button. I really appreciate that. And if you did enjoy it, I'm gonna be continuing to make videos similar to this, and hopefully getting better at making videos like this. If you guys want, please subscribe. I really would appreciate that. Helps me know that I'm doing better. Makes me know that I'm not smacking my face off a brick wall. And all in all, guys, if you have any ideas for the next video or games that you want me to play, put them in the comments down below, because I'll absolutely take a look at it and see which games I want to do next. I think the next one I have up is V Rising, which is a very, very fun vampire game, like a top-down Diablo-esque kind of deal. Kind of like Diablo meets Dark Souls. We won't get into that. But again, guys, Left 4 Dead's no perfect creation, but it's a lovely creation, and I love it. It's a great game. So hope you guys enjoyed again. If you did enjoy it, please like, please subscribe. I appreciate it, guys. And until next time, bye now.